Okay, 6.1 the exponential function and its inverse. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna graph an exponential function for you with the base greater than 1 and base less than 1, so then we can go through the properties, and hopefully I will sketch you the inverse of those functions. I'm gonna share a blank paper pages here, new share. Okay. Let's say I want to graph y equal to 2 power x for you with the key features, and y is equal to 1/2 to the power of the x. Everyone should know how to graph that. Just key points to graph 2 power x is -1, 0, and 1. I can put more points, but this 3 is enough. 2 to the power of -1 is 1/2. 2 to the power of 0 is 1. 2 to the power of 1 is 2. So here is -1. Let's say this is +1. -1, 1/2 is this point. 0, 1 is this point. And 1, 2. As you see, this point is increasing, right? And here at this end is go to 0. Go to 0. It's never reached 0. We have an asymptote. We have an asymptote. Horizontal asymptote. The equation for my horizontal asymptote is y equal to 0. I'm gonna put the key feature for that domain for this graph. There's no restriction. X could be positive as well as negative. See this end covering all negative value of the x, and this part covering all positive value of the x. So there is gonna be x belong to a real number. And for range, it's gonna be y belong to a real number. Y greater than 0. How do I know greater than 0? See, your graph is above the x-axis. The y just can be positive. Do we have the y-intercept? Yes, the y-intercept is at 0 and 1, and your function is always increasing. So this is the key feature for that. Now I can graph this one as well. xy, -1, 0, 1. 1/2 to the power of -1 is 2. 0 to the power of 1/2 to the power of 0 is 1. 1/2 to the power of 1 is 1/2. You know how to graph it from grade 11, but since we want to talk about the inverse, I have to graph it. So the first one, -1 and 2. Here's 1, 2. 0, 1. And 1, 1/2. So you connect the points that's going towards 0, but never reach 0. Again, we have an asymptote at y equal to 0, right? This dotted line that I put, your graph never intercept that. So this is your horizontal asymptote. Again, the key feature here, the domain, the x could be positive and negative, no restriction for x. For y, the y again gonna be y belong to a real number, but the y is always positives above the x-axis, right? Y greater than 0. Your function is always decreasing and you have a y-intercept at 1. Any question? Okay, to do the inverse, if I want to do the inverse, I can do it graphically. Find the reflection of my graph respect to y equal to x, or I can just switch x and y. Maybe I just first switch x and y for you guys. If I want to do the inverse here, x and y, I switch 1/2 and -1, right? So 1/2 coming for x and -1 is for y. 0 and 1, I switch it, it becomes 1, 0. 1 and 2, I switch it, is 2, 1. So this is the point on my inverse graph. Let's just graph it. 1/2, -1. So this is this point. 1, 0 is this point. 2, 1 is that. See if I connect these points. Again, I have to go toward the asymptote. Now my asymptote become my y-axis because I'm switching x and y, right? And you know, if you really reflect the blue one, which is your exponent, respect to the y is equal to x, you reflect it, you get the green one, which is the inverse. You also can do that, the same thing here. To get the inverse, you can switch x and y. So 2, -1, see 2, -1, 0, 1 become 1, 0. 1, 1/2 is going to be 1/2 and 1. 2, -1 is this point. 1, 0, 1/2, 1. Again, you connect the points and it's going toward the asymptote. Now your asymptote gonna be your y-axis. Okay, and this is like that. Again, you see if you reflect the blue one respect to y is equal to x line, this point is reflected, you get this point. This one you reflected, you get that point. So you should get the other one. So they are symmetric respect to y equal to x. Now, pay attention. That is graphically. How do I get an equation for inverse? So I have to switch x and y, right? So instead of the y, I should put x. And instead of the x, I should put y. Now I need to rearrange it for y, but how? That's why the scientist or the mathematician create a logarithm. So they say y equal to log with the base of 2. And here is x in front. So there is no other way to rearrange it for y. You have to create something. You have to create something. That's why we create a logarithm. So you need to remember how to switch from logarithm to exponent. See these two, this is the base, the power of that, the other side of equality, 2 to the power of y equal to x. You need to be switch around the exponent to the logarithm and logarithm to exponent. Again, you do the same thing. Instead of the y, you put x. Instead of the x, you put y. Now you need to write it in a log form. The power, which is y, is equal to log. The base of the log will be the base here, which is 1/2. And the x at the other side going in front of the log. So again, 1/2 to the power of y is x. Now the key feature for this green one, for the domain, so as you see, the domain gonna be just positive value of the x. XCR, x greater than 0. And for the range, the y could be positive, this part covering the positive value of the y, and this part covering the negative value of the y. YER, there's no restriction for y. Same thing here, domain, gonna be just a positive value. See the green one just covering the positive value for the x. And for the range, it could be positive and negative, right? So the y here, this part is covering the positive value of the y, and this part covering the negative value of the y. There is no restriction. Sorry, this is the y. Let me just move this one. Here is the y belong to R. Okay, pay attention. When you writing the inverse, the domain become the range and the range become the domain. The same thing here. The domain become the range here and the range here become the domain. So any question?
No.
Okay, now let's just go to the worksheet. Basically, we did cover this. And I want you to do these questions for me. Okay, let me just. Okay, so this is exponential function. So this is the graph that you have. Just read that. You need to find the inverse of that. Just take a point and switch x and y graph. And then you need to give me the equation of the graph. The same thing for question number 2. You do the question number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Guys, all of these worksheets you do right now.